Namaste and welcome back to Waking Up with Mindful Serenity Yoga. This was quite a while since I've been here. I think it's been a couple of months anyway. I've been busy and life has been a little bit challenging with its circumstances and crises like it can get. So I have not been here doing what I told myself I would do because I felt this compulsion to do it, to come here and share the things I'm learning. So regardless of that, I'm here now and I'm glad to be back, and I'm going to pull an answer or a question from the jar, and I'll be using my trusty timer here since I've been having so much time with so much of an issue with my phone as a timer. So as I say that, I see the timer going off. Not meant to be, maybe. So let me just get that ready. I am going to dig into the jar. I am going to admit this is somewhat contrived. I did look in the jar and there's a few questions left. I just wanted to see what kind of questions I had left, and I knew they were about the mind. I was thinking a lot about the mind and actually wrote a little bit of something about the mind today, so I was hoping to get a mind question, and I did. Mind can be the biggest trap or the biggest liberator. Explain. Mind can be the biggest trap or the biggest liberator. Explain. I am going to press my 10-minute timer. Take a deep breath, and I'm going to exhale all that old ego that still wants to jump in and answer the questions and pretend it knows that which it will never know. So mind can be the biggest liberator or the biggest, did I read that right? Mind can be the biggest trap or the biggest liberator, and that is absolutely true. We need to think of mind in terms of universal mind, or the one mind that we're shared by all, and that is our consciousness. There's only one consciousness, one essence to everything in this world that we've come to see as reality. One essence in this being you see in front of you, which is the same essence that's in my dog over there drinking her water. It's the same essence in the other individuals in this house, the people I know, people I like, people I don't dislike, or I dislike. It is one essence, one consciousness, and that's really hard for us to get around that concept of oneness when we see these separate border lines defining me, defining you, separating me from you. We see the chair looking so differently than me, a different type of matter, more dense, not moving, slower vibration. So I see it as not having anything to do with this consciousness, this mind that I'm thinking with. We tend to see the world in separate forms and entities when there is just one of everything, one consciousness breathing through all we see. And if you have a very scientific mind, you can go back to the explanation and the discoveries that have been recently found with the boson, the lepton, and the quarks. We see now that all particle matter, all things that we see as dense matter, which our materialistic minds define as the only reality, is actually made up of wavelets or vibrations. And you ask any quantum physicist and they will support what I'm saying here. Of course, I'm not saying it as eloquently as they would, lacking their intelligence and their understanding of this. But there is wavelets or vibration, nothingness, from which all matter comes. So we're breaking the thing. No longer do we break it down to the atom and think that's the smallest unit of matter. We've broken it down to electrons, protons, neutrons. But we even go beyond that now to these quarks, leptons, and bosons, and see that they are just wavelets that create matter. So all wavelets, all the space on which these wavelets emerge into matter is one thing, one consciousness, one energy. Everything is energy. And that energy, when we think of the mind, can be seen as consciousness that breathes through everything that is matter. So there is one mind. Unfortunately, this mind, which has the capability of being completely liberated, free, spacious, humongous, everything, full of joy, bliss, peace, love, is focused very narrowly on the material objects, which are also emerging through these wavelets, through this energy, through this oneness from which all things emerge. It sees itself in the body. It gets identified with the body, begins to believe it is the body, that other people are their bodies. My body's distinct from your body. My species is distinct from the other species. Organic matter is distinct from inorganic matter, and so on and so on. Inanimate objects distinct from animate objects. We keep making these distinctions and these specializations and these separations that take us out of that oneness, and we identify and focus on the little oneness and all the drama that's surrounding this little oneness I call me. And that becomes our life. It becomes a trap because it's vibrant energy that is capable of creating so much and being so much, loving so much, experiencing so much joy, is focused on this very little tiny beam of light, which is often negative. We know now our thoughts, 60,000 thoughts a day, the scientists are telling us, and 80% of those thoughts are negative. And that's where we're focusing. We're focusing on me's thoughts and feelings, what me wants, me's preferences, what it feels it needs in order to feel okay inside, because it doesn't feel okay inside. And that becomes our trap. Desire, as the Buddha said, is the cause of all suffering. All suffering is our preferences and our desires, what this little me that we created with the mind wants and feels it needs in order to feel okay inside. Consciousness created this me by focusing on it. And it has trapped us. So consciousness, this wonderful, expansive, spacious consciousness, is now trapped in this little entity I call me with all its drama. And we barely see what's going on with the other entities around us. We're so focused on ourselves. But even when we do, we tend to focus on the negative and the suffering, as I have been doing in the last couple of months, I'll be honest. I got to the point where I was feeling quite weary of this world and weary of the suffering that was going on around me, feeling helpless in my ability to do anything about it. Both, in my own body, my mind, the bodies and minds of others around me. So I was overwhelmed with this sense of, this can't be it. And every time I get that feeling or that thought, something amazing happens. I realize it isn't it. The answer isn't out there. The problem isn't out there. What we're focusing on isn't out there. It's in here. So if the problem isn't out there, the solution isn't out there. So no matter how much I grasp and cling, I'm not going to make this entity feel okay. It's when I fall back into that one consciousness, into that wave, those wavelets that are underneath the subatomic particles that are making all matter. When I fall back into that essence and that spaciousness and that Shionda, the Buddhists would refer to it as, it is then when I realize that all this is insignificant. What happens to this little me who's only a mere concept is so unimportant. And the only reason why I'm here, which is a wonderful reason, and to be able to experience this world and this life and everything in it for the finite amount of years I'm here, is amazing. But me, quotation marks, is nothing. My consciousness is in this body and in this mind. That is a trap for me, as it is for most of the billions of people on this earth. My mind is here to help and serve this moment. This moment is not here to help and serve this me, this entity I call me. And once the mind realizes that, there's great liberation and freedom. When the mind is able to fall back away from that which it is focusing on and be that which is focusing, that which is conscious, that which is aware, and it sees what it's been doing, all that's just like a little drama being played out in front of it for the finite years that we're here. We do not need to get caught up in it. We're not it. And that's freedom. That is so much freedom. That's where the mind can be liberated when we do that. So I had no idea this question was going to come out today. I knew the question was in the jar. But I wrote this morning when I woke up because I was thinking about the mind. And so I may go over a little bit over my time, but I'd like to share it with you. It is far from perfect, as all my poetry is, and it takes a great deal of courage and dissuasion from the ego's need and desire to stay obscure, either obscure or super famous. Goes between the two of them. It doesn't like to put up imperfect work, but this imperfect poetry says so much because it comes so quickly from me. So I'm going to share it with you, and you can judge and criticize it if you so desire. That is totally up to you. But I am going to read it and hope that you can hear the message in it. This mind, so infinite and blissful, was this mind, pure and expansive as a sky, shrunk down into a tiny form, cramped and compressed, it cried. In strange and new confinement, it lay at mother's breast, while memories of the place it left denied it of its rest. Even the sweetest memories will not last, and as morning turned to day, in this strange new world, what was known slowly slipped away. Desperate and lost in unfamiliarity, like a leaf caught in the breeze, this ray of mine now longed for solidity and a certain sense of ease. So focusing all its power, now so shaky and confined, it willed the tiny dimpled hand, when eyes were blue and blind, to reach up into the darkness for something solid it could grasp. Landing on the warm flesh of other, it drew in tiny breath and gasp. This will be mine, it declared, as clumsy fingers dug deeply into skin. In this dark and noisy world, through flesh I will begin. This is mine, I am this, I am me, the tiny lungs exclaimed. And reaching here and reaching there, the mind began to claim anything of this earthly world it could use in its defense, and any bit of outer knowing that would make the world make sense. Resting in this delusion, the mind's vessel closed its eyes, and a fleeting, hushing lullaby eased the desperation in its cries. The weary mind fell into dream sleep, where it stayed for much too long, while faded memories of what it knew became a haunting song. The form expanded as the years went by, but the mind did not find much relief. What was left of what it once knew was buried under strangling belief. Its focus became so pinpoint, so contracted was its beam, seeing only the me and its drama in this never-ending dream. Its addiction to the world and its elixirs greatly grew and intensified until all the grasping and the clinging did little to end this nasty lie. There was no end to suffering, the mind sadly realized. There was no escaping reality. There was no real place to hide. So yawning, mind opened up its eyes and began to truly see. There is no sustenance to that which I cling. There is no solidity to me. The mind fell back and listened to that which lay beneath thought and word. This is not what you are here for. The song's lyrics could be heard. Who is dreaming? Who is singing? The mind answered back in query. Of this world and all its pain and pleasures, I am so sadly weary. Let me remember what I knew before I took to lowly form, and narrowed this light I'm seeing through to shine on passing storm. If I am the light, then who are you? From where does this light come? Show me where the light begins and the place of source I come from. The answer has yet to come to this mind that is slowly awakening, but there is less holding on to flesh and form as the world continues shaking. No longer infant or child, mind expanding beyond its earthly form, and slowly, with gentle grace and ease, it is falling back to home. Well, I'm just going to leave you with that. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you have an amazing day. Namaste.